what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Travis and welcome back to another video. So today we're going to be doing a rambling update slash lessons learned on the 300-gallon reef. And yes, we do have the 40-gallon as well as the frag tanks attached to the 300, but we're primarily going to be focusing on the 300-gallon. So with that said, I went away this weekend and I ran into some issues, and I want to kind of talk about them with you guys so you can hopefully set yourself up for success if you have to go away, even if it's only for a couple days. So with that said, I left at like 4 p.m. on Friday, and I got an alarm from my Apex at about 11 p.m. Once I got to Vermont, I pulled in at like 10:45, and then I got an alarm at 11 talking about the pH was too high in the chamber of the calcium reactor, basically indicating that my CO2 tank has ran out of CO2 or is really, really low. So I looked back through the log, and it was actually kind of crazy. About 2 minutes after I left on Friday is when the CO2 actually started to increase, just because it took so long for it to elevate before the alarm went off. It just kind of worked out that I arrived in Vermont as soon as I got the alarm. So with that said, I actually have my training partner, Jason. He has a key to the house. I showed him how to hook up the generator, and I actually walked him through changing out the CO2 tank at 11:30 at night on Friday. So thankfully, so there's two lessons learned with that. One, make sure you have a backup CO2 tank. It's just a little, I think it's a 5-pound or a 10-pound. It's one of the smaller ones you get at like the beer distributor. But either way, make sure you have an extra CO2 tank. It's just, you got to have one because they always die or run out at the wrong time. And make sure you have somebody who can help you out. If I didn't have Jason, I would have had to have tried to compensate by increasing the ALK, because I do run multiple methods for calcium alkalinity, so I would have to increase the ALK, the Kalkwasser. But I don't think I would have even been able to do enough, because I would have been gone for 3 days. There's not enough top-off water to really overall take care of the consumption of the tank. So thankfully, I had somebody who could be there. So that's basically the two lessons I learned on that. Make sure you have a backup CO2 tank, which thankfully I did. And then make sure you have somebody who can come and work on the system or be there if you're gone. Not just somebody who can come feed if you need to feed your fish. Fish can go days and days without feeding. They'll be fine. But if your CO2 tank runs out, or you have a leak, or a pump dies, or the power goes out, you need to have backup methods or people that can help you out. So just keep that in mind if you are going away. Now, another thing that happened is the day before, I actually broke one of my wet sides for my MP40, so I had to get another one, and it wasn't going to be in until yesterday. So with that, I didn't have any flow at the bottom of the tank here from this bottom pump, and you can see there's a rock structure in the back, or in the back wall there, and that actually has a bunch of Montipora, and you can see that I have a ton of STN on that red Monty now. What I realized is, even with the flow being off of the tank for only a couple days, a lot of detritus built up on that Montipora and started killing off the coral. So I'm going to give it a few more days and see if it stops. If not, I'll pull out the rock itself and actually trim back that red Monty, excuse me, fish, and see what I can do to, save the colonies there. But yeah, just not having enough flow in a particular area, just a little change like that, it's pretty crazy, can impact and kill off some of the coral. Another thing I had is I actually had an SPS frag, since I changed the lights over to Kessel, die on me. Nothing crazy, because I did remove the Barney coral that was here. I had a big, massive Barney coral. I cut that out, and I am getting a little bit of STN and a little bit of death on there. And it's just because I did make a change to the tank. I did change up the lighting. I tried to match the PAR as much as I can, but I am getting more PAR from these Kessels than I did the Radion. So just a little bit of an increase in PAR, plus with the PAR or the light intensity, I am getting a little bit of a dip in ALK, because the growth has significantly picked up with the additional lighting. So it's all a balancing act at the end of the day. So with having the ALK dip, a little extra light, that frag just didn't make it. It was a frag I put in just a few weeks ago, and it didn't make it. So it's not like it's an entire colony going. It was just a little frag to replace that Barney. So again, I'll give that Montipora a few days. It's just kind of a bummer that it's used to having so much flow blasting on the back there, because I mean, all that flow, when this thing cranks up, is just going straight across those Monties, which is totally fine. But it was just a couple days of not getting it, and it started STNing. So just changes in general. Outside of that, the tank is doing pretty good. I'm getting some fish aggression between my fox face, and the I think it's the magnificent fox face. So this joker is super aggressive all of a sudden. I think it's because, again, I wasn't feeding as much over the last few days, but he's been pounding this little guy, and I found him against the powerhead a couple times. The next time I catch him, or had the opportunity to catch him, I am going to pull him out and put him in my frag tank because he's a beautiful fish, and I don't need him getting beat up. I can get much more use out of him in my frag tanks anyways, given I only have a tang in each one of those, so it'd be nice to have a little bit of additional fish. But yeah, outside of that, the tank is doing very well. I haven't really noticed any crazy coloration changes since I put the Kessels in, but again, it's only been about a week. Yeah, not even a week at this point. Yeah, so we're just kind of waiting to see how the tank turns around and how the corals take off. One thing I am doing is I'm coming in here and trying to trim these as much as possible. There's been an explosion of growth over the last couple months, just an insane amount. I've really been focusing on getting my nutrients elevated. I'm sitting at like 13 to 15 ppm of nitrates. Phosphates, I'm trying to get up there. I know I'm like 1.5 1.5 now. So I'm definitely up there with higher levels, just to kind of see if I can increase the growth. The coloration, again, hasn't really changed too much. But again, we did just change the lights, but the growth has just gone through the roof. And with that, of course, I'm using up more media, using up more CO2, using up a lot more calc. And with that, I have to get in here and trim because these guys are about to touch each other. I got to get in here and you know, I'm trying to frag things and mold them, because when I did this before, I really didn't focus on it. I let everything kind of grow together when I grew this out the first time, which was great. It looked good. But with these Acropora, and given that this is a business, I want to get in there and trim them before they have a chance to kill each other. Like this guy right here, just like, I think I'm just going to grow over you. And there's not really much saving I can do on that. But when it comes to other colonies, I can get in here and hopefully, you know, break them apart before they start killing them off. Now, I am kind of concerned about this guy down here, this little Millie, how he's going to do, because he's already starting to get shaded. I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, outside of that, everything is doing pretty well. I'm going to test the tank again today just to kind of see where the nutrients are at. If you guys are wondering, I feed, I do have my homemade fish food, which has a lot of nori, a lot of broccoli, a lot of green in it. So with that, I do dose nitrates automatically through the dosing pump, the doser, or the dose or DOS or whatever, through the Apex, whatever you want to call it. So I do dose about 40 milliliters a day of nitrates, and then I just feed a combination of food, but I do feed a lot of nori as well, and so it kind of helps balance it out, keep the nitrates elevated, so I don't run into any issues with dino or coral paling or anything like that. But yeah, the NEMs seem to be a little frustrated. I think just because of the flow changes over the weekend, they're a little pissed off. I did end up finding 5 NEMs in this tank. This little rock had 3 on them, and then it just spit out a bunch of babies when we had some changes a little while back. Spit out a ton of babies. I ended up going through and razor blading 5 of them off the bottom of the tank and putting them in my my NEM tank there. So they're just kind of chilling in that. Outside of that, everything is doing pretty good. I'm happy with the tank. I'm just going to sit back and let it do its thing. Of course, you know, keeping up with water changes every other week, my 35 gallons, making sure I'm dosing my supplements and all that stuff. If you guys want to know what I dose, I do have videos on that. I do that every week. And then just trimming as we go, putting corals over here to heal, and then putting on the website, selling them, just to kind of, you know, just part of doing business, right? So with that said, I think that's it for the video. If you guys have any questions or anything you want to add, feel free to put that stuff in the comment section, and I'll see you later. All right, peace.